reacting to SpongeBob Haunted episode finally solved by Sponge Truths. Go ahead, subscribe to Sponge Truths. I love this dude. Alright, let's get into the video.
Have you ever had that haunted feeling? Like you walk into a room and suddenly everyone avoids you, but nobody says anything. So now you're just trapped thinking, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
That feeling can make you question yourself, your worth, even your sanity. And that's exactly what happens in Something Smells. Most people remember this one as the bad breath episode. But I just found out this episode hides a much darker story about shame, rejection, and haunting thoughts. There are lots of small clues in the episode, even from the very first bite SpongeBob takes that Sunday morning. So to see what kind of story it is, we need to go back to that first bite, which puts this whole curse into motion. One Sunday, SpongeBob wakes up like it's the best day of his life. He checks the calendar and sees that today is Sunday. But there's a slight problem with that because he doesn't have any ice cream. So he improvises. A bowl of ketchup is a substitute for the ice cream, 2 sacks of onions for the fruit toppings. And finally, since he can't find a peanut for his source of protein, he used his sad-looking peanut plant from his bathroom windowsill.
What would you use? This dead-looking peanut plant that looks like it wants to die already, bro. What the frick did you do to this?
And there you have it, your Sunday special for breakfast. Gary, of course, is already leaving the room. He's smart enough to know that no one in their right mind would eat that even more as a breakfast. So SpongeBob decided to have the whole bowl for himself.
Wait, pause. I'm sorry, I keep on pausing, but one last time. What is that, bro? That looks hideous. That looks disgusting. Personally, I would not eat that.
You know what? I specifically remember the first time I watched this scene because I really hated onions as a kid. Raw ones, I mean. So I just couldn't stop thinking about it as SpongeBob kept eating spoonfuls of raw onions bathed in ketchup. By the way, I still hate raw onions.
Same.
Anyway, you don't need to hate onions like I do to know that whatever Sunday SpongeBob eats, it clearly won't smell good after, right? In fact, the curse begins right after he eats that abomination.
You know what they say, Gary? I'm easy like Sunday.
The very next time he opens his mouth, it's not just words that come out. His bad breath literally suffocates Gary right there on the spot. The stink is a haunting presence. Because I don't know if you've ever had someone with really bad breath talking right in your face. The smell just won't go away. It leaves such a nasty feeling you just can't forget it. And I despise it. But of course, SpongeBob doesn't notice. He's way too oblivious for that. What's even worse is that this just happens to be the same day his to-do list says he has to go around greeting everyone in Bikini Bottom. We all know this won't go well. Every time SpongeBob opens his mouth, somebody is ready to puke. The male fish actually sheds layers of his own skin out of shock. The crossing guard abandons children in the street, whispering, "Mother of Mercy," like it's an exorcism. And when a parade rolls by, SpongeBob's greeting literally turns into a stink ball that slams through the entire band.
Brush your teeth.
But before SpongeBob could ask anyone what's wrong, everyone was already gone. And SpongeBob was just confused. He doesn't have the slightest idea why everyone kept choking or dying and floating away. He thinks he's just being friendly, and yet the whole town treats him like he's cursed. Luckily, SpongeBob found just the guy who wouldn't run from him, Patrick. He asks Patrick what's happening and, more importantly, if there's something wrong with him. But ironically, SpongeBob asks the wrong person. Patrick doesn't smell anything wrong because he doesn't have a nose. So together, they try to figure it out. Maybe it's SpongeBob's clothes. Is he wearing something funny? Maybe it's the way he's laughing. Well, since this isn't a modern SpongeBob episode, his laugh is fine. And then Patrick says it, the very line that changes the whole episode.
Just because you're ugly.
SpongeBob laughs at first. He doesn't believe it. But then the mirror test happens. He says hello to his own reflection. The reflection smells his breath, pulls out a hammer, and shatters itself. That's the moment SpongeBob believes it. From here on, he spirals immediately, chasing strangers through the street, screaming, "Am I ugly?" Clinging to cars, causing explosions, whispering, "Am I ugly?" And again, since everyone just runs without saying a word about it, SpongeBob ends up believing the wrong truth. By nightfall, the thoughts were already haunting his mind. The lights go dark in the house, lightning flashes outside, and there he is, wearing a cape, playing the organ like he became the monster everyone thinks he is.
This is the boot that started it all. When you think of LL Bean, you think of the Bean boot. Since
SpongeBob turns to face Patrick, and we see he's hiding his face with a set of Groucho glasses. He tells Patrick to run away just like everybody else, because in his head, no one could possibly want to be around someone as ugly as him. But Patrick, in his usual comforting but wrong way, tries to cheer him up with a story. Not just any story, though, the infamous Ugly
Once
Barnacle.
there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end.
That's it. That's the story. The moral? Non-existent. And yet it's one of the most twisted parodies of the Ugly Duckling. Instead of a transformation into a swan, the barnacle is doomed forever. No growth or hope, just ugly, and that's the end. Which is exactly the fear that's been haunting SpongeBob this whole time. That everyone is terrified just by seeing his face. He clings to Patrick, spiraling even harder. And in true Patrick fashion, his solution is simple. Scream it out. So he drags SpongeBob onto the roof and pushes him to say the words out loud. At first, SpongeBob hesitates. But Patrick insists. Say it! And finally SpongeBob kinda does.
I'm ugly and I'm proud!
Here's where it gets interesting. The moment he says it louder and louder, SpongeBob actually feels better. For the first time in this episode, his curse turns into power. Even if it's just a coping mechanism, it shows us something real. The haunting only has as much control as you give it. But of course, this is SpongeBob we're talking about, so instead of acute recovery, the whole thing gets cranked into chaos. Because the very next thing they decide to do is go to the movies. Inside the theater, SpongeBob repeats the mantra.
Ugly sponge coming through.
People respect self-esteem.
But sadly, the audience doesn't hear pride, they just see horror. SpongeBob can't hold back anymore. This time he just crumbles in his seat and says he's not as confident as he looks. And maybe it's better for him to just go back and hide.
That looks hideous.
And for whatever reason,
What was
Patrick just snaps.
Look at it! It's ugly, isn't it?
His ugly spreads across rows, melting faces, sending everyone screaming out of the room. Until SpongeBob and Patrick are the only ones left. It's funny, it's over the top, but it's also really bleak. Because SpongeBob did everything he was told to do. He owned it like a champ, and people still ran away. It only leaves him with a more haunting thought. Your pride doesn't matter, because you're still ugly. After the theater disaster, Patrick tries to play it cool. But once SpongeBob pulls out the leftover sundae and shares it with them, things take a turn for the worse. Patrick happily swallows the special sundae because, of course he does, but almost instantly, his stomach starts gurgling like a broken engine. He dashes to the bathroom, and what happens there flips the episode on its head. Patrick breathes, and this time, he knows what it's like to be in SpongeBob's shoes. The fish around him start screaming, throwing money at him like he's some kind of monster to be bribed away.
I caught the ugly!
But you know what's ironic? Patrick always pushes SpongeBob to take pride in the ugliness. Yet when he knows what it feels like to be truly avoided, he just crumbles the same way.
And why's that bag on your head?
And when SpongeBob tries to cheer him up with the same mantra, Patrick just doesn't give a damn.
That may be fine for you, but I was one of the beautiful people.
SpongeBob actually catches Patrick's bad breath this time, since he has a nose, and finally says the magic words.
We're not ugly. We just stink.
It was just the ketchup, onion, peanut sundae all along. And in that moment, the spell breaks. The haunting thought turns into something laughable. The two of them run through the streets yelling,
Guess what, Squidward?
We stink!
Nah,
proud,
that's crazy.
empowered, and completely missing the part where their power is literally dissolving buildings around them. And that's the punchline of this whole story. What happened as a curse ends as a celebration. SpongeBob and Patrick proudly embracing the thing that everyone else runs from. Because if you can't beat the haunting, you might as well dance with it. But that message is the obvious part. What if I tell you this episode still hides something much heavier in plain sight? The clues are subtle, but it's all there. So let's step back for a second. Think about how this whole thing plays out. It starts with SpongeBob enjoying something innocent, his sundae. But once he steps outside, everyone flees without explanation. The only friend who stays can't even smell the problem. And when SpongeBob begs for clarity, the answer he gets is misleading. You're ugly. That's the first clue. The haunting thoughts begin from a misunderstanding. And here's where it gets really clever. Patrick's little bedtime story, The Ugly Barnacle, isn't just a stupid parody of The Ugly Duckling. You see, in the original Duckling story, the duck suffers for being ugly, but eventually grows into what he actually is, a beautiful swan. It's a story about transformation, hope, and a promise that time or growth can turn pain into acceptance. Beauty doesn't come in a day, you have to work for it. But here, the barnacle is just doomed, along with everyone else that sees his face. That's the story SpongeBob gets, and unfortunately, it's what happens in the episode. Everyone is miserable because of their breath, and the culprit doesn't even feel bad about it. The barnacle truly killed everyone around him. So instead of trying to fix the problem, the two of them just go down the hard path of acceptance. SpongeBob spiraling down into haunting depression is inevitable from the moment he believes in this story. But I don't blame him. I blame Patrick. People run without telling you the truth, and the only explanation you get is a fairy tale with no redemption. What else are you supposed to believe? But at least there's still a happy ending in this SpongeBob story. When Patrick finally catches the ugly, and SpongeBob realizes the problem is just their breath, the haunting thought breaks. Even though the ugly curse never ends, at least the bearer didn't have to suffer from the haunting feeling of guilt. But the twist doesn't stop there. This episode also tells us about a much heavier life lesson than just don't forget to brush your teeth or don't eat gross stuff with lots of raw onion in it. The first lesson is about what shame does to us when we can't get it out of our head. SpongeBob wasn't ugly, but he believed he was. And once that happens, it changes the way you see yourself, the way you act, and the way you connect with people. Now, SpongeBob actually has an ugly personality. He can't stop crying about it. He can't stop yapping about it. And now every mistake he makes, he blames on him being ugly. Nobody would talk to a person like that, even if your breath smells good. The second one is how important it is to talk with the right person when you have a problem. Patrick is still willing to talk to and help SpongeBob in his own way, even after everyone else avoids him. That's the sign of a good friend. But Patrick is just as guilty as SpongeBob in this story, if not more. Because Patrick's failure to recognize the real problem in this drama leads to some very unnecessary self-esteem issues. He's also making the problem somewhat worse by forcing everyone to accept SpongeBob's ugliness while shoving his bad breath in their nose. Still, that's not as bad as what he's saying in the final moment of the story. Did you catch it?
I always thought, if I was as ugly as that guy, I don't know what I would do.
That's just heartbreaking. After all that talk about pride and accepting yourself, he reveals he never really believed in it. He could say it so confidently only because he wasn't the ugly one. What a jerk. So yeah, shame really thrives in the dark. It feeds on confusion and the wrong stories we tell ourselves. But once you put the right name to it, even if it's as silly as ketchup onion sundae breath, you're free from the haunting thoughts, even though it doesn't really solve the problem. So, the mystery's solved. Something Smells isn't a haunted episode for no reason. It's a stinky story built out of silence, bad advice, and the wrong fairy tale. Who would have thought you'd get this much of a life lesson from SpongeBob, huh? And if you love this kind of life lesson from SpongeBob, there's another golden episode waiting to haunt you. Because Bikini Bottom doesn't just do hauntings, sometimes it goes full survival horror in an episode about cannibalism. Shocking, right? If you missed it, it's SpongeBob's most shocking episode finally solved. You don't want to miss it because once you know the real backstory, you'll never see it the same way again. I'll see you on the next